Welcome back to the International Space Station Flight Control Room. The MS-16 Soyuz is currently still docked to the Russian Poisk module of the International Space Station, but not for long. Here in the Space Station Flight Control Room, the team is preparing for undocking of the Soyuz MS-16 and the 3 crew members it's carrying inside. But that is still a few minutes away. That's coming up at 6:32 p.m. Central Time. And I'm Brandy Dean. NASA's Expedition 63 Commander Chris Cassidy, along with Soyuz Commander Anatoly, Ivanishin, and Flight Engineer Ivanishin and Vagner, both of Roscosmos, closed hatches between the rest of the International Space Station at 3:24 p.m. Central. Since then, the station has maneuvered into undocking attitude, and the crew has been working through the last leak checks, getting into their so-called spacesuits that they'll wear for landing, and working through the other activities that have to happen before today's undocking. Despite a slight delay in the hatch closing, while the crew did some troubleshooting with a video camera, all the work since then has gone pretty smoothly, and we're now standing by for the Soyuz's undocking, again scheduled for 6:32 p.m. Central Time, coming up in just 31 minutes. That undocking will be followed by their deorbit burn at 9 p.m., which will put them on course for a landing southeast of Roscosmos, Kazakhstan at 9:55 p.m. Central Time today. That's going to wrap up a 196-day stay at the space station and mark the official transition from Expedition 63 to 64. As Expedition 63 Commander Chris Cassidy transferred authority to Expedition 64 Commander Sergei Ryzhikov ceremonially on Tuesday, but that won't be official until they undock. It's still Expedition 63 until the Soyuz MS-16 has left the space station. And it was a very busy and historic mission. Over the course of those 196 days, the crew welcomed 5 visiting vehicles, including the first commercial vehicle to deliver crew members to the space station, the Spacex Dragon, with NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley on board. They joined Cassidy, Ivanishin, and Vagner for 2 months of the expedition during their flight test of the spacecraft, which launched on May 30th and landed on August 2nd. Other than that, the 3 astronauts have been on their own, except for about a week at the very beginning of their stay in space, before they relieved the Expedition 62 crew members, Andrew Morgan, Jessica Meir, and Oleg Skropochka, and also for the past week when they've been handing over to their own relief. Expedition 64, made up of NASA's Kate Rubins and Roscosmos' Sergei Ryzhikov and Sergei Kudspirchkov.
Irkut, the next measurement.
In addition to all those spacecraft carrying people on board, they saw the arrival and departure of a number of cargo vehicles as well. They were on hand to say goodbye to Russian Progress 74 and Northrop Grumman Cygnus 13, and to greet their replacements, Progress 76 and Cygnus 14. They were also present for both the arrival and departure of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Vehicle's HTV, or Exploration Agency HTV vehicle number 9. Amidst all that traffic, the crew still managed to get a great deal of work done. While the Crew Dragon was at the space station, Cassidy conducted 4 spacewalks with Bob Behnken, spending a total of 23 hours and 37 minutes outside in the vacuum of space, while the 2 replaced aging nickel-hydrogen batteries with new lithium-ion batteries. That brought Cassidy's spacewalking total to 54 hours and 51 minutes over 10 spacewalks that spanned his 3 missions. With that, he is tied for most spacewalks by U.S. astronaut and is 9th on the all-time list of time spent spacewalking. Cassidy also worked on a number of science experiments during his time at the space station. Just to name a few examples, he helped to investigate cancer therapies using microgravity as part of the OncoSelectors experiment. He also contributed to research on water droplet formation and water flow as part of the droplet formation study, and worked with the cube-shaped free-flying robots Astrobee to test out their use as an astronaut assistant for routine duties. With his landing coming up at 9:55 p.m. Central today, Cassidy will have spent a total of 378 days in space over his 3 space missions, putting him at 5th place on the list of most time spent in space by a U.S. astronaut. And just a reminder for those of you following along at home, we'd love to answer some of your questions over the course of our coverage tonight. If you have a question about Expedition 63's undocking and landing, you can send it to us on social media using the hashtag AskNASA. We'll try and answer a few of those over the course of the night. So again, go ahead and start sending those to us using the hashtag AskNASA, and we'll be watching for them. Here in the Space Station Flight Control Room, Flight Director Chris Edelin is leading the team for tonight's activities, with Dave Marshke beside him manning the Capcom console. Team here is getting ready to perform their go, no-go poll for the Soyuz undocking, ensuring that they are ready to support from here in Houston. And in Kazakhstan, a number of officials and vehicles are standing by in preparation for the landing. A total of 12 Mi-8 helicopters will be deployed for Soyuz landings to various areas to await touchdown. 8 are at the expected landing site southeast of Roscosmos. 2 more will be ready about 250 miles away in the area where touchdown would occur if a ballistic entry occurred. And a final 2 helicopters will loiter midway between the 2. We are, of course, not expecting a ballistic entry, but as always, we will be prepared for one. Also deployed for landing are 6 all-terrain vehicles and 3 Anatoly airplanes that serve as flying command centers. They'll have direct communication with the crew and will relay those communications back to the flight control team outside of Moscow. That whole team should have pretty good weather for all of their activities. The weather forecast at the landing site is for temperatures around 45 degrees Fahrenheit. And they'll have a few clouds at 5,000 feet, scattered clouds at 20,000 feet, and winds out of the west at 14 knots. Visibility should be about 6 miles or more at the landing site by the time the Soyuz arrive. Again, that's scheduled for 9:55 p.m. Central Time. So definitely not a bad day as temperatures go in Kazakhstan in the fall. However, the crew won't have to spend a great deal of time outside regardless. As usual, the landing team will quickly erect a medical tent at the landing site so that the crew can work through their regular post-landing checkouts before boarding helicopters to Roscosmos, where they'll get on airplanes to take them home. Final wrap-up of Expedition 63 began on Tuesday afternoon when Expedition 63 Commander Chris Cassidy handed authority for the space station over ceremonially to Expedition 64 Commander Sergei Ryzhikov. That handover will become official when Soyuz undocks from the space station in about 24 minutes. But in the meantime, let's take a look back at that change of command ceremony.
Welcome aboard the International Space Station to the Expedition 63 to 64 crew change of command. I'm NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy here, and with all 6 of us, it's an honor to be with this event with you guys right now. You know, Expedition 63 has gone by super fast. We joke around that there's only Mondays and Fridays, and it's a big blur of time between. And when we started the mission, the pandemic on Earth was just starting, and now we are returning to Earth, and our fellow crewmates here had to train through those 6 months. Our time on board has been very interesting. We've had some time as a 3-person crew. We had some time as a 6-person crew, both at the beginning with Drew and Jessica and Oleg, and now with Sergei, and Kate. And then in the middle, we had a time as a 5-person crew with Bob and Doug, and we had the privilege of welcoming the SpaceX demo mission on board the International Space Station. Sprinkle in there some spacewalks and some Progress cargo vehicles and some American cargo vehicles and some crazy situations with the space station systems. It's just been an incredible 6 months of our lives. But experiences are nothing without the people that you enjoy those experiences with. And I must say it's been really an honor to be with my friend Tolia and Ivan Couldn't have asked for a better team of people to be here with. And when we had just a crew of 3, we spent several cozy days in just the service module, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. I also want to give a shout out, as I mentioned, to Drew, Jessica, and Oleg. It was great to be with them. Bob and Doug, certainly we had 2 wonderful months, and then this week has gone by super fast with Sergey, and Kate. Thank you for being part of it with us. And so with that, we have this small tradition where there's a key to the International Space Station, which didn't exist when I was here 7 years ago. I don't remember this, but now we have this, and I think it's very cool. It symbolizes the tool that we use on the Russian hatches to open and close the hatches, and it's a very appropriate key of the space station. It symbolizes the camaraderie that we have between all of the space agencies. And Sergey, it's with great pleasure and honor that I present you this key and command of the International Space Station. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. It's a great day. It's an unforgettable event, and this key reminds me time when I was a pilot and we kept key of sky, and now we keep key of space, and it's very interesting, very honorable for me. And we are very happy to join our crewmates and left this week together. And our mission is going to be very to have many events, many activity, and we are ready to continue tradition to show how on board people have example for people on Earth, how we work together, how we help together, and how we like to be on board station. So thank you very much, whole ground team, and we are looking forward to work with you upcoming 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Houston. We appreciate your support, and over to you.
Station Houston, we are thrilled to be with you today as we mark the end of this amazing increment. Expedition 63, thank you for your hard work and accomplishments. You've all set an impressive example with your work ethic and dedication to the mission. Chris, Anatoly, and Ivan, safe travels home tomorrow. And Sergey, and Kate, we are looking forward to a great increment with working with you.
That again was video from yesterday's change of command ceremony. The next step for the crew was this afternoon's hatch closing, which occurred at 3:24 p.m. Central Time. We weren't able to see that video in real time because of a misconfiguration on orbit, but that issue has since been fixed, and the crew was able to send down recorded video of those final moments together. That's what you're seeing here.
CO2 pressure now. 4.2 is the CO2.
Kate Rupin's in the foreground getting some photos with Chris Cassidy just floating up next to Anatoly Ivanishin there in the hatch of the Soyuz. Again, this is recorded video from just around 3:20 p.m. Central Time, and you can see the hatch being closed. Again, that occurred this afternoon at 3:24 p.m. Central Time. That is the Soyuz hatch there that you see closing. The next step was also to close the space station side of the hatch so that when the Soyuz moves away, the space station will also be protected. That occurred just a couple minutes later at 3:26 p.m. Central. And there's the new space station commander closing the space station side of the hatch. That's Sergei Ryzhikov there. Again, the Soyuz hatch closure took place at 3:24 p.m. Central Time today, with the space station hatch following at 3:26, and that was some recorded video of those activities that we weren't able to see real time. That activity set the stage for Expedition 64 crew members, NASA astronaut Kate Rubins and Roscosmos cosmonaut Sergei Ryzhikov and Sergei Kudzverchkov to stay behind today as their Expedition 63 crewmates return to Earth. The next step on the journey will, of course, be undocking. Again, that's coming up at 6:32 p.m. Central Time, just about 14 minutes away now. Once the appointed time arrives, Soyuz Commander Anatoly Ivanishin will send a command to open the hooks and latches between the Soyuz and the Poisk Mini Research Module 2, where it's been docked at the space station since April. Once the two vehicles are disconnected, the Soyuz thrusters will automatically fire and back the spacecraft away from the Poisk at a speed of just over 1/4 mile per hour. Within 3 minutes of undocking, the Soyuz will be about 50 feet away from the space station, at which point Ivanishin will be able to conduct the first separation burn, firing the Soyuz jets for about 8 seconds to begin moving away from the space station at a rate of about 1.2 miles per hour. You can see a graphic here of how that will look. When it's almost 200 feet away, in about 4.5 minutes after undocking, the engines fire again for 15 seconds, speeding the spacecraft up to 3.5 miles per hour. That should get it to a point about 20 miles away in time for the scheduled 9 o'clock deorbit burn. As you can see, after that deorbit burn, the descent module of the spacecraft will be separated from the rest of the spacecraft for the final portion of the landing. Parachutes and then soft landing jets will slow it down for its landing in Kazakhstan at 9:55 p.m. Central. Since the hatches between the Soyuz and the Poisk Mini Research Module were closed at 3:24 p.m., the crew inside the Soyuz has been steadily making their way through their checklist in preparation for their landing tonight. Soon after that hatch closure was confirmed, they took their Soyuz off of the space station's power and put it on autonomous power, then started entering the settings needed for deorbit, such as their state vectors and the change in speed for the deorbit burn. They also depressurized the vestibule between the Soyuz and the Poisk module and performed a series of leak checks. And then they got themselves ready by getting into the so-called spacesuits that they'll be wearing during the journey home. With that done, they're ready to move into the descent module of the Soyuz, which contains the custom seats that they use during launch and landing to soften their touchdown. It also has all the controls and displays necessary for flight, as well as the life support systems, batteries for re-entry and landing. And of course, it also has the parachutes and soft landing rockets that will slow the Soyuz just before its touchdown. It's the only portion that will stay with the crew all the way back to Earth. The orbital module, which is what is directly connected to the station's Poisk module, will separate from the descent module about 28 minutes after the deorbit burn, when the Soyuz is about 87 miles above the Earth. We're about 10 minutes away from today's scheduled 6:32 p.m. Central Time undocking. This is the view coming from the Soyuz, looking out at the space station, and it's what the crew will be seeing as they move away from the space station. Again, that undocking is scheduled to start in about 9 minutes now at 6:32 p.m. Central. And that will set the crew on their way for undocking, for a deorbit burn at 9 p.m. and landing at 9:55 p.m.
Москва 2:24:00. Включили передачу плюс.
Moscow at 2:24:00. We activated the closed transmitter. Copy.
Передатчик основной.
The main transmitter.
Включаю дисплей.
Принято.
And activating display plus TV. And I'm ready to issue the E2 command.
Да, подтверждаем выдачу команды 02:25.
We confirm at 02:25:00. We confirm the command.
Выдал 2:02:25:00.
02:25:00. Command has been sent. We have pressurization, accelerometer.
Принято.
We copy.
Так, есть цепка. Коммуникаторный режим.
We have indicator mode.
Принято.
Copy.
Есть разворот. Весов пока нет.
We don't have GSO yet.
Принято.
Параметр КДУ.
Not in attitude yet. The KDO parameters.
I promised earlier that we would try and answer some of your questions over the course of the night, and we've had a few people sending those in using the hashtag AskNASA. You can keep doing so on social media if you have a question about the Expedition 63 undocking and landing, but we're going to go ahead and take a few of the ones that have already come in now. The first one is coming from Caitlin, who's asking what happens between hatch closure and undocking. There are a number of things that the crew needs to do once they get the hatches between the two vehicles closed. One of the main things is they need to get into their spacesuits, the SOCOL launch and entry suits that the crew wears both when they launch into space and for their return home. It would protect them in the case of an emergency, and is one of the key things that they have to do before they get into their seats to come home. Also conduct a number of leak checks between the two vehicles to make sure that both of them are going to be safe once they separate from each other, and then begin entering some of the information that they'll need for today's deorbit, leading to that 9:55 p.m. landing.
And 02:29:30 is the next command.
Next up, we have Jake, who is asking how many G-forces would the crew feel on re-entry. That is about 5 Gs for Soyuz landing. It can vary a little bit, but in general, crew members seem to say that the harder part is the actual touchdown. That has been compared to a soft car crash. Even with the parachutes and soft landing jets slowing the Soyuz down, it can be a bit of a wild ride once they do land on the steppes of Kazakhstan. Jonathan Haley is asking, with Expedition 63 returning to Earth, who is going to be staying behind on the space station? That is the Expedition 64 crew. They are going to be alone there for a couple of weeks at least. That is NASA astronaut Kate Rubins, as well as Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Sergei Kuzberchkov. They'll have the space station to themselves for just a little while until the SpaceX Crew 1 arrives. That is going to be the 4 astronauts coming up on board the first operational SpaceX Crew Dragon mission. They are scheduled to launch in November. And that will be bringing up Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, Shannon Walker, and Soichi Noguchi. Kat is asking, is there anything specific or exciting that the Soyuz is bringing back to Earth from space station? And the main thing that the Soyuz brings back to Earth is the astronauts themselves. There's not just a whole lot of room. As I mentioned earlier, the 2 modules that actually we'll see backing away from the space station will separate, and only the descent module will return to Earth with the crew members inside. So there's not much room for cargo, but the astronauts do manage to bring back a little bit of science and research, in particular their own science and research, since they are one of the main guinea pigs on board the space station. So that is one of the first things that the teams on the ground will do once the crew is safely off and out of the Soyuz, is pick up those science samples and make sure that they get safely returned. And if you follow Chris Cassidy on social media at astro_seal, you can see a picture of some of the science that he personally collected earlier today.
29:30, docking and internal transfer system power on.
And final question for now is from Jason, asking when will the next SpaceX Crew Dragon arrive at the space station? As I mentioned, that is going to be bringing up Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, Shannon Walker, and Soichi Noguchi, and it is currently scheduled to launch in November. We'll be taking a look at that mission and making a final call on the launch date sometime soon.
And the time is 02:30:30. Transfer hatches are closed. The indicator is also illuminated.
We're just a couple minutes away from undocking now.
I issued the command to open the hooks and
Принято.
Anatoly, Ivanishin, the Soyuz commander there, confirming that he sent the command to undock. That sets the undocking in motion, but will still take 2 minutes before the undocking actually occurs.
And S13 command is no longer illuminated. Electrical connectors mated.
Merci. 23141.
02:31:41. Mechanical connection is no longer illuminated at 02:31:41.
And there you see undocking right on time at 6:32 p.m. Central, while the Soyuz station are 263 miles above Russia. Expedition 63 crew officially on its way home now. They arrived at the space station on April 9th and have spent 196 days living and working there, greeting the first commercial spacecraft to launch humans into space and completing another link in the almost 20-year-long chain of continuous human presence at the space station.
The docking port is clean of any debris.
And this view coming from the crosshairs from the video camera on board the Soyuz itself,
Принято, есть ГСО.
Check everyone.
looking at that Poisk module as it grows further and further away. This view coming from the International Space Station. Short drop out of video as the signal is handed over from one satellite to another, but we should be getting that back in just a moment. Coming up in just a moment, at 3 minutes after undocking, we'll have that first separation burn. That'll begin moving the Soyuz further out from the space station, getting it to a safe distance. And there's our video back. This again coming from the Soyuz itself, a view of what the crew sees as they back away from the space station.
We are standing by for thruster activation. +X. And we confirm dipole thrusters.
There's that first separation burn. Soyuz jets firing for just 8 seconds to ease it further away from the space station at just over a mile per hour.
Data is no longer illuminated, and we confirm the maneuver, start of the maneuver.
Team on the ground reports a good separation burn. Soyuz MS-16 now moving away from the space station, about 1.2 miles per hour, and coming up, it's the second separation burn.
Есть включение дипол. 2, 4, 5, 6,
5, 6, unintelligible.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Отработали 15 секунд.
All right, the thruster firing time is 15 seconds. Burn is 15 seconds.
That second separation burn lasting, as you heard there, 15 seconds. That'll speed the spacecraft up by 3.5 miles per hour. Still not moving too fast, but certainly will be coming up later in their journey.
And we sent the E1 command, unintelligible. Moscow, how do you copy?
На связи.
02-37-20 выдал запрет динамических режимов.
Принято.
You can see the Soyuz moving out there. That second burn puts them a safe distance away from the space station for the ultimate deorbit burn that will drop them back into the Earth's atmosphere at 9 p.m. Put them on a return course for Kazakhstan, landing at 9:55 p.m. Central.
Принято.
A1 command sent.
Включаем СП Д8.
Выдаем Д8.
Да, да, не. Д8. Давай. 0238, 00 отключил ССВП.
I am deactivating the docking and internal transfer system at 0238.
Выдаем В-18.
Давай. Отключил визор причал. Отключаю.
I am activating the headlight
Принято.
and deactivating visor pre-chow.
Отключил.
I have deactivated the headlights and the
Переводим рут транспорта.
translational hand controller is in transport position.
Everything continuing to go smoothly as the Soyuz MS-16 backs away with Chris Cassidy, Anatoly, Ivanishin, and Vagner in tow, setting them on their final section of this journey of their mission, the 196 days in space.
170, 171,
Да, сейчас.
and then 466.
Так. Телевизор отключаем.
Do we want to deactivate visor?
Секундочку. Пока не отключаем. Ждем указаний.
Приняли за указание.
We're standing by for your recommendations, Moscow.
Another view from the International Space Station cameras of the Soyuz getting further and further away. Two vehicles are now about 263 miles above the Pacific Ocean, east of Japan, and just about to begin heading southeast on this orbit around the Earth.
Отключаем телевидение, Иркутск.
Да, приняли. Отключаем телевизор.
Right, we are deactivating the TV system.
Выдал команду отключения ТВ 24130. Есть.
At 2:41:30, I sent the command to deactivate the TV system and display. Affirmative.
В транспортном.
All right, and rotational hand controller is in transport position.
Иркуты заложили уставки на спуск. И признак спуск на борту есть.
Да, наблюдаем признак спуска.
Принято.
Что у нас со связью?
What's with the comm?
Что у нас со связью?
Guys, what's with the comm?
Помеха каждый раз.
There is so much interference.
А какой сейчас?
Okay, and where are we at?
47.
We are moving on to page 47.
Иркуты, напоминаю, следующая команда у нас 03:45:00, включение видеокамер GoPro в режим видеозаписи.
Приняли 3:45.
Unintelligible.
Ну и до этого нужно провести подготовку к работе по 48-й.
Приняли.
Still seeing good views of the Soyuz moving further and further away from the space station. These coming from the International Space Station's exterior cameras. Inside that Soyuz MS-16, the Expedition 63 crew now on their way back to Earth for a landing that's scheduled for 9:55 p.m. Central Time today. Again, they undocked at 6:32 p.m. Central. Slowly backing away from the International Space Station now, with the aim of getting to a good spot for their deorbit burn that will be taking place at 9 p.m.
Давайте ближе к времени 03:40, наверное, там.
Хорошо, в 3:40.
We'll ask again. We're starting to work for page 48 at 0340.
The Soyuz MS-16 is now safely backed away from the International Space Station following that 6:32 p.m. Central undocking. And right now, the space station itself is maneuvering into its post-undocking attitude. So at that point, we're going to take a break in our coverage. We are going to be back at 8:30 p.m. Central Time for the Soyuz's 5-minute and 20-second deorbit burn that's scheduled for 9 p.m. Central Time. And from that point, we'll stay with you until the crew has landed and is out of their vehicle. Again, that landing is scheduled for 9:55 p.m. Central Time. So we are hoping that you'll be back with us in just about an hour and 45 minutes for our continuing coverage of the Soyuz MS-16 landing today at 9:55 p.m. Central. We'll see you back at 8:30 p.m. for continuing coverage, and this is Mission Control Houston.